red dust of Kepler 442b swirled around Sergeant Jake Martinez as he crouched behind a broken concrete wall. His breathing was steady, but his heart was racing. The abandoned mining facility stretched out before him like a metal graveyard. Twisted pipes and rusted machinery cast long shadows in the pale light of the planet's twin suns. Jake pressed his finger to his com device. "Thompson, what do you see from the east side?" Corporal Lisa Thompson's voice crackled through the static. "Nothing moving, Sarge, but those energy readings are getting stronger. Whatever's in there, it's big." "Rodriguez, Foster, sound off," Jake whispered. "Danny here. I'm picking up some weird signals on my scanner, like nothing I've ever seen before." Came the reply from Private Danny Rodriguez. "Amy here. All clear on the south entrance," reported their medic. Amy Foster. Jake had been leading reconnaissance missions for 3 years, but this felt different. Command had sent them to investigate strange energy bursts from this old mining station. The planet had been empty for decades, abandoned when the ore ran out. So what was causing those readings? He moved forward, keeping low. The facility's main entrance was a gaping hole where blast doors used to hang. Inside, emergency lights flickered weakly, casting an eerie glow on the metal walls. Jake stepped through the entrance and immediately felt the hair on his neck stand up. Something was very wrong here. The corridor stretched ahead for 50 meters before opening into what used to be the main processing chamber. Jake could hear something now. Voices, but they didn't sound human. He moved closer, staying in the shadows. The voices were getting louder, speaking in a language he had never heard before. It sounded like music mixed with hissing. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jake reached the end of the corridor and peered around the corner. What he saw made his blood freeze. In the center of the chamber stood 6 figures. They looked almost human, but their skin was pale blue like winter ice. They were tall, maybe 7 feet each, with long silver hair that seemed to move on its own. Their eyes glowed with a soft white light that made Jake want to look away. 5 of them stood in a circle around the 6th. The one in the center was different. She was smaller, maybe 6 feet tall, and her clothes looked like they were made of liquid metal. She had a crown of black crystal on her head, and her eyes burned with silver fire. Even from his hiding spot, Jake could feel the power radiating from her, but she was in trouble. The 5 around her had their hands raised, and streams of red energy were flowing from her body into theirs. She was on her knees, and Jake could see she was fighting to stay conscious. "You have grown weak, Zarathul," one of the 5 said in perfect English. His voice was cold and sharp like broken glass. "Your mercy will be the death of our people." The woman in the center, Zarathul, raised her head with effort. "Vextar, you know nothing of strength. True power comes from protecting life, not destroying." Pretty words from a failed queen," Vextar replied. "You had the chance to complete the harvest of 1,000 worlds. Instead, you hesitated. You let lesser species live when they should have fed our people." Jake pressed himself closer to the wall. These beings were talking about destroying entire worlds like it was nothing. His mind raced as he tried to understand what he was seeing. "The humans were next on our list," another of the 5 spoke. This one was female, with scars across her face. "Their planet would have sustained us for generations. But you delayed the attack. You called for more study, more mercy." Zarathul's voice was getting weaker, but her words were clear. "I have seen their nature. Humans are different from the others. They have something we lost long ago. They care for each other without reason. They sacrifice for strangers. They could help us remember what we used to be." Vextar laughed, and the sound made Jake's skin crawl. "Humans are food, nothing more. When we finish with you, we will take their fleet and feast on their life force." Every man, woman, and child will feed our hunger. Jake had heard enough. He touched his cum device, speaking as quietly as possible. All teams, we have a situation. I need you at the main chamber now. And bring the heavy explosives. What kind of situation? Lisa asked. The kind that decides if Earth lives or dies, Jake replied. He watched as the energy drain continued. Zarathil was getting weaker by the second. Her silver eyes were dimming, and she could barely keep her head up. The 5 attackers were growing. Brighter, their power increasing as they stole hers. Jake looked around the chamber, studying the layout. There were catwalks above, support beams, and old mining equipment scattered everywhere. The 5 aliens were completely focused on their ritual. They thought they were alone. Danny Rodriguez appeared at Jake's shoulder, moving silently. Sarge, what are we dealing with? Aliens, powerful ones. They're talking about invading Earth and killing everyone on it. Jake whispered back. Danny's eyes widened. All of them? Every single person. Men, women, children, everyone. Lisa and Amy arrived a moment later. They took one look at the scene in the chamber and understood the danger immediately. The one in the center, Jake explained quietly. She's trying to protect Earth. The others want to destroy it. We need to save her and stop them. Sarge, those things look like they could tear us apart with their bare hands, Amy said. Maybe, but they're not paying attention to anything except their ritual. We have surprise on our side. Jake pulled out his explosive charges and started handing them to his team. Danny, you take the support beams on the east side. Lisa, you get the west. Amy, you're with me. We're going to create enough chaos to break up their little party. Then what? Lisa asked. Then we get the Queen out of there and figure out how to stop an alien invasion. They moved into position. Jake counted down from 3 on his fingers. When he reached 0, 4 explosions rocked the chamber at once. The support beams cracked and twisted. Chunks of metal ceiling crashed down. Sparks flew from damaged power lines. The 5 aliens scattered, their ritual broken. Zarathil collapsed to the floor, but she was still breathing. Jake sprinted across the chamber, his rifle ready. Behind him, his team provided cover fire. The aliens were fast, faster than anything. Human, but they were confused and separated. He reached Zarathil and knelt beside her. Up close, he could see she was badly hurt. Her blue skin was pale, and her breathing was shallow. Can you move? He asked. She looked up at him with surprise. Her silver eyes were barely glowing now. Human? You came back for me? Nobody gets left behind, Jake said. He helped her to her feet. Can you walk? Before she could answer, Vexstar's voice boomed across the chamber. Humans, you dare interfere with Sanguis business? You will die screaming for this insult. Energy blasts started flying. Jake pushed Zarathil toward the exit as his team returned fire. Their bullets seemed to slow the aliens down, but didn't really hurt them. This way. Jake shouted. They ran for the corridor as the chamber erupted in chaos. Behind them as they reached the exit. Zarathil grabbed Jake's arm. Her grip was weak, but her eyes burned with gratitude. You saved me, she said. Why? Jake looked back at the chamber, where alien voices were shouting in rage. Because you were trying to save my world. That makes you one of the good guys. They disappeared into the dark corridors of the facility as the hunt began. Jake Martinez led his team through the dark corridors of the mining facility. Zarathil leaned heavily against his shoulder, her blue skin growing paler with each step. Behind them, angry voices echoed through the metal hallways. The aliens were coming, and they sounded furious. In here, Jake whispered, pushing open a door marked Medical Bay. The small room was filled with old human medical equipment. most of it covered in dust. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls. Amy Foster immediately went to work on Zarathul. She helped the alien queen sit on an examination table and began checking her wounds. "I've never treated anything like this before," Amy said, looking at Jake with worry. "Do your best," Jake replied. He moved to the door and listened. The voices were getting closer. Danny Rodriguez was already examining the alien technology scattered around the chamber where they found Zarathul. He had grabbed some small devices during their escape. "Sarge, look at this stuff. It's like nothing we've ever seen." Lisa Thompson was setting up defensive positions by the door. "Whatever you're going to do it fast. They're going to find us soon." Amy worked quickly, using human medical scanners on Zarathul. To everyone's surprise, the equipment worked. Her body temperature is low, but her heart rate is strong. She's lost a lot of something. Not blood exactly, but some kind of energy. Zarathul opened her silver eyes and looked at Amy. "You are trying to heal me, even though you do not know what I am?" "It's what we do," Amy said simply. "We help people who are hurt." "People?" Zarathul asked, confused. "Anyone who needs help," Jake explained. "Human, alien, doesn't matter. If you're hurt and you're not trying to kill us, we'll help you." Zarathul stared at him like he had said something impossible. "Your species helps strangers, even when it puts you in danger?" "Every day," Lisa said from her position by the door. "It's kind of our thing." The alien queen was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice stronger than before. "My people have traveled the galaxy for thousands of years. We have met hundreds of species. None of them have ever helped us without wanting something in return." "What did you want in return for trying to protect Earth?" Jake asked. Zarathul looked surprised. Nothing. I simply believed it was right." "There you go," Danny said, looking up from the alien devices. "You're already thinking like a human." Amy finished her examination. "I can't fix the energy drain, but I can treat the physical injuries. Some of these cuts look infected." She started cleaning wounds with antiseptic. Zarathul winced, but didn't pull away. "Your medicine works on sanguis bodies?" "Apparently," Amy said. "We're more alike than different, I think." "Sanguis?" Jake asked. "My people," Zarathul explained. "We are the Sanguis Empire. We survive by feeding on life energy from other creatures. For generations, we have conquered worlds and drained them of all life." "But you didn't want to do that to Earth," Lisa said. Zarathul shook her head. "When we first studied your world, I saw something different. Humans do not just survive. You create, you explore, you help each other. You make art and music and stories. You care for your weak and your old. You sacrifice for those you love, even when it costs you everything." She paused as Amy applied bandages to her wounds. "My people have forgotten how to do these things. We only know how to take. But watching humans made me remember that we were not always this way." "What were you like before?" Danny asked, still working on the alien technology. "Long ago, we lived in harmony with other species. We shared energy instead of stealing it. We helped worlds grow instead of destroying them. But a great disaster forced us to become hunters to survive. Over time, we forgot our old ways." Jake heard footsteps in the corridor outside. He held up his hand for silence. Everyone froze. "They are in here somewhere," came Vextar's cold voice. "The human scent is strong. Why do you care so much about humans?" Another voice asked. "They are weak and short-lived." "Because Zarathul believes they can change us," Vextar replied. "She thinks their compassion can make us soft. She sees them as teachers instead of food." "And that threatens your power?" a third voice added. "If the Queen believes we can change, others might. Follow her. Your plans for total conquest would be ruined. Jake looked at Zarathel. She was listening with a sad expression on her face. Lord Vextar was my most trusted general, she whispered. I thought he wanted what was best for our people. But he only wants power. He believes strength comes from making others afraid. What do you believe? Amy asked softly. I believe strength comes from protecting others, from building instead of destroying, from giving instead of taking. Zarathol looked around at the 4 humans. You proved that today. You risked your lives to save someone you had never met. The footsteps were moving away now, but Jake knew they would be back. We need to move. They'll search every room eventually. Danny held up one of the alien devices. I think I figured out how this works. It's some kind of energy weapon, but the power source is almost dead. Can you fix it? Jake asked. Maybe, if I had time. But this technology is way beyond anything we have. Zarathel reached out and touched the device. Immediately, it began to glow with soft blue light. Your touch awakened it, she said to Danny. Sanguis technology responds to life energy. But human life energy is different from ours, stronger in some ways. How is it stronger? Lisa asked. Human energy is connected to emotion, to hope and love and courage. Our energy comes from taking life from others. Yours comes from within yourselves. It is pure. Amy finished treating Zarathel's wounds. You're stable, but you need rest. That energy drain did serious damage. I will survive, Zarathel said. She stood up carefully, testing her strength. But we must move. Vextar has called for the Shadow Guard. They are hunters who specialize in tracking our own kind. They will find us soon. Shadow Guard? Jake asked. Elite warriors. They are faster and stronger than regular Sanguis. They live only to hunt and kill. Vextar will promise them great rewards for my death. Jake checked his weapons. How many are coming? At least 12, maybe more. Lisa whistled softly. 4 humans against 12 super aliens. I've had better odds. You do not understand, Zarathel said urgently. You must leave me here. Run while you can. Get to your ship and warn your people. The Sanguis fleet is only days away from Earth. Not happening, Jake said firmly. We don't abandon our allies. Allies? Zarathol repeated the word like she was tasting something new. You're fighting to protect innocent people, Amy explained. That makes you one of us. Danny had been working on more alien devices while they talked. I think I can modify some of this stuff to work with our equipment. If we're going to fight aliens, we need alien weapons. Jake looked around the room. We need a plan. This facility is huge. Lots of places to hide, lots of ways to move around. We can use guerrilla tactics, hit and run. Make them come to us on our terms. You would fight the Shadow Guard for me? Zarathel asked. We're not fighting for you, Lisa said. We're fighting with you. There's a difference. Zarathel was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, and her silver eyes began to glow brighter. I have never had allies before. Only subjects and enemies. This is ... new. You'll get used to it, Jake said. Now, what can you tell us about these Shadow Guard? How do we fight them? Zarathel straightened up, looking stronger than she had since they found her. They are fast and strong, but they rely on fear. They expect their enemies to run. They do not expect humans who fight back. Then let's give them a surprise they'll never forget, Jake said. Outside, the hunt was beginning. But inside the medical bay, an unlikely alliance was being born. Jake Martinez peered around the corner of the maintenance tunnel. The corridor ahead was empty, but he could feel eyes watching them. The Shadow Guard had arrived an hour ago, and the facility felt different now. Colder, more dangerous. There, playing with us, he whispered to his team. They could have found us by now if they really wanted to. Zarathul nodded grimly. Shadow Guard like to hunt. They enjoy the fear of their prey. They want us to panic and make mistakes. Then we don't give them what they want, Lisa Thompson said, checking our modified weapon. Danny Rodriguez had managed to combine human and alien technology, creating guns that fired energy bolts instead of bullets. They moved carefully through the tunnels. The mining facility was a maze of corridors, shafts, and chambers. Jake had studied the layout on his scanner, but the Shadow Guard knew how to move without, showing up on human sensors. Contact, Danny whispered from the rear. 3 of them, following about 50 meters back. Jake made quick hand signals. The team split up, taking positions inside tunnels. This was an old trick he had learned fighting on Mars. Let the enemy think they were chasing you, then surprise them from the sides. The first Shadow Guard appeared around the corner. It looked like the other Sangus, but was covered in black armor that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed red instead of silver. It moved without making any sound, floating just above the ground. Jake waited until all 3 were in the corridor, then gave the signal. Energy bolts filled the tunnel. The Shadow Guard were fast, but they had been expecting to hunt frightened prey, not prepared soldiers. One of them fell immediately. The other 2 scattered, but Lisa caught one with a perfect shot to the chest. The third disappeared into a side passage. 2 down, Lisa reported. 10 more to go, Amy Foster said. She was treating a small cut on Zarathul's arm where a piece of debris had hit her. Zarathul looked at the fallen Shadow Guard with amazement. I have never seen humans fight like this. You move like a single mind. Military training, Jake. Explained. We learn to work together. Each person covers the other's weaknesses. Sanguis fight alone, Zarathul said. Each warrior tries to prove they are the strongest. We never learn to truly cooperate. Danny was already searching the fallen aliens for useful equipment. Their armor is incredible. If I could figure out how to use it ... No time, Jake said. We need to keep moving. The others will have heard the fight. They ran deeper into the facility, heading toward the old mining shafts. Jake's plan was to use the narrow tunnels to limit how many enemies could attack at once. But as they moved, he noticed something strange. Zarathul, he said, you're moving faster than before. Getting stronger. The alien queen looked surprised. I am. I do not understand why. The energy drain should have left me weak for days. Amy had been thinking about this. It started after I treated your wounds with human medicine. And you said, our life energy is different from yours. What if exposure to humans is healing you? That's impossible, Zarathul said. But even as she spoke, her silver eyes were glowing brighter. They reached the entrance to the mining shafts. These tunnels went deep into the planet's crust, following veins of rare minerals. The air was warmer here, heated by geothermal vents. Perfect, Jake said. The heat will mess with their sensors. And these tunnels are too narrow for more than 1 or 2 at a time. They entered the shaft system. The tunnels were carved from rock, with metal supports every few meters. Emergency lights provided dim illumination. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the narrow space. Behind them, Jake could hear the Shadow Guard entering the tunnels. They were making noise now, no longer trying to be stealthy. They were angry about losing 2 of their number. Human vermin, one of them called out. You only delay the inevitable. We will feast on your life force slowly. They talk too much, Danny said. Back on Mars, the smart enemies stayed quiet. The tunnel ahead split into 3 paths. Jake made a quick decision. Lisa, take the left. Tunnel. Danny, You take the right. Amy and I will go straight with Zarathul. We'll meet at the old processing chamber in 20 minutes. What if we don't make it? Lisa asked. Then you get to the surface and warn Earth, Jake replied. That's the mission now. They split up. Jake led Amy and Zarathul down the center tunnel. The walls here were covered with strange crystals that glowed with their own light. The air was thick and warm. This place feels different, Zarathul said. The energy here is chaotic. It reminds me of home. Where is home? Amy asked as they walked. A world called Sanguistia. It orbits a red star in the Vega system. The planet is covered in crystal forests that store and release energy. My people evolved there over millions of years. Jake was listening to their conversation while watching for enemies. What happened to make you leave? Our star began to die. The energy from the crystals was not enough to sustain us. We had to find other sources of life force, or our entire species would have died. So you became hunters, Amy said. We became survivors, Zarathul corrected. But somewhere along the way, we forgot that other species are also just trying to survive. We saw them only as food. They reached a junction where the tunnel opened into a larger chamber. Old mining equipment sat rusted and broken. Jake could hear water dripping somewhere in the darkness. Movement ahead, Amy whispered. 3 Shadow Guard emerged from the shadows. But these looked different from the ones they had fought before. They were larger, with silver markings on their black armor. Elites, Zarathul said with fear in her voice. The strongest of the Shadow Guard. The leader spoke in the musical Sanguis language. Zarathul replied angrily. Jake didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. They were threatening each other. He says I am contaminated by human contact, Zarathul translated. He says I am no longer pure Sanguis. What did you tell him? Jake asked, raising his weapon. I told him that being contaminated by human compassion is better than being pure Sanguis cruelty. The elite Shadow Guard attacked. They moved faster than anything Jake had ever seen. Amy fired her weapon, but the energy bolt passed through empty air. The aliens were there 1 second. Gone the next. Jake felt claws rake across his back. He spun around, firing blindly. Amy cried out as one of the creatures grabbed her arm. But then Zarathul was there, moving with impossible speed. She caught the Shadow Guard that was attacking Amy and threw it against the wall. The creature hit a rock with a sickening crack. But the other 2 were already moving, trying to surround them. Jake noticed something incredible. Zarathul was fighting differently than before. She wasn't just using her own strength. She was protecting Amy and him, positioning herself between them and the attackers. She was fighting like a human soldier. Your queen fights like prey, one of the Shadow Guard hissed. She has forgotten the way of the hunter. I have learned a better way, Zarathul replied. She grabbed a piece of broken mining equipment and used it as a weapon. The way of the protector. The battle was fierce but brief. The Shadow Guard were strong, but they were used to fighting alone. Zarathul, Jake, and Amy fought as a team. When one was threatened, the others covered them. When one attacked, the others supported. Soon, all 3 Shadow Guard were down. Impossible, Amy said, looking at the fallen aliens. We actually beat them. We fought together, Zarathul said. They could not understand that. Sanguis do not sacrifice for others. Jake's radio crackled. Sarge, this is Danny. We're in trouble. They found us. Lisa is hurt. On our way, Jake replied. He looked at Zarathul. Can you keep fighting? She smiled, and her eyes blazed with silver fire. I feel stronger than I have in centuries. Human. Courage is contagious. They ran toward the sound of battle, leaving the fallen Shadow Guard behind. Jake Martinez ran through the mining tunnels, following the sound of gunfire. Behind him, Amy Foster and Zarathul kept pace. The alien queen was moving faster than any human could, but she stayed with them instead of rushing ahead. "This way," Jake shouted, turning down a side passage. The noise was coming from the old processing chamber deep in the facility's heart. They emerged into a vast underground room filled with massive machinery. Conveyor belts and sorting equipment stretched up to the ceiling. In the center of it all, Danny Rodriguez and Lisa Thompson were pinned down behind an overturned mining cart. 5 Shadow Guard had them surrounded. Lisa was clutching her left arm, and Jake could see blood between her fingers. Danny was firing his modified weapon, but the energy bolts were getting weaker. The power pack was almost empty. "We need a distraction," Jake said quietly. "Something to draw their attention." Zarathul stepped forward. "I will give you one." Before Jake could stop her, she walked into the open chamber. "Vexstar?" she called out in a voice that echoed off the metal walls. "I know you are here. Stop hiding behind your servants like a coward." The Shadow Guard stopped attacking immediately. From the shadows near the far wall, Lord Vexstar emerged. He looked exactly like he had in the ritual chamber, but now his eyes burned with rage. "My queen," he said with false respect, "you look different. These humans have changed you." "Yes, they have," Zarathul replied. "They have shown me what we could be, what we once were." Jake used the distraction to circle around the chamber. He reached Danny and Lisa's position without being seen. Lisa's wound was bad, but not life threatening. "Hang in there," he whispered. "We're getting out of this." "The whole facility is surrounded," Danny said quietly. "I picked up their signals on my scanner. At least 50 more Sanguis outside." Jake's heart sank. Even if they won this fight, they were trapped dot in the center of the chamber. Vexstar was. "Talking to Zarathul, you speak of what we once were. You mean weak, dependent on others, begging for scraps of energy instead of taking what we need." "I mean alive," Zarathul said. "Really alive. Not just existing by stealing life from others." "Pretty words," Vexstar sneered. "But words will not save your new pets. The invasion fleet is already on its way to Earth. In 3 days, every human will be dead." Amy gasped. 3 days. That was not enough time to warn Earth's defenses. "Tell me about the old ways," Zarathul said suddenly. "Before the Great Dying, what were we really like?" Vexstar looked confused by the question. "Why does it matter? The past is dead." "Because these humans deserve to know the truth before they die," Zarathul replied. "And because I want to remember." She closed her eyes and began to speak. "Long ago, we lived in crystal cities that floated among the clouds of Sanguistia. We shared energy freely with each other and with the other species on our world. We were gardeners, not hunters. We helped life grow instead of destroying it." Jake listened in amazement. This was not the story of a monster race. This was the story of a people who had lost their way. "We had families," Zarathul continued. "Children who played in the crystal gardens. Artists who created beauty from light and sound. Scientists who studied the mysteries of life itself. We were happy." "Lies," Vexstar said, but his voice was uncertain. "Truth." Zarathul opened her eyes. "The Great Dying was not natural. It was caused by a weapon that drained the life from our star. Our enemies tried to destroy us completely, but we survived by learning to feed on life energy. We became the very thing that had tried to kill us." Vexstar's face twisted with rage. "Even if that is true, it changes nothing. We are what we are now. Predators, survivors. We could be something else," Zarathul said. "These humans have shown me how. They sacrifice for each other without being asked. They protect the weak. They create beauty even when death is near. They are what we used to be." Jake realized what she was doing. She was stalling, giving them time to think of a plan. But what plan could work against 50 aliens? Then he saw it. The old mining equipment around them was connected to the facility's power core. If they could overload it, the explosion might be big enough to collapse this section of the facility. It would trap the Sanguis forces outside and maybe give them a chance to reach the communication array. But someone would have to stay behind to trigger the overload. And they would not survive. Jake looked at his team. Danny was working on the power systems, trying to restore their weapons. Amy was treating Lisa's wounds. Lisa was pale but alert, watching the confrontation between the alien leaders. "Danny," Jake whispered, "can you rig the power core to blow?" "Maybe," Danny replied quietly. "But it would take time, and someone would have to stay to trigger it. Manually. How long? 5 minutes to set it up. Then whoever stays behind has maybe 30 seconds before the whole place comes down." Jake nodded. He had made his decision. "Zarathul," Vexstar was saying, "you have been poisoned by human weakness. But I will cure you. After I kill your pets, you will remember what it means to be Sanguis." "No," Zarathul said firmly. "I will not let you hurt them." "You cannot stop me," Vexstar laughed. "You are outnumbered. Your human friends are wounded and weak. This ends now." He raised his hand, and red energy began to flow from his fingers. The Shadow Guard moved forward, ready to attack. That was when Lisa Thompson did something that changed everything. She stood up from behind the mining cart, ignoring her wounded arm. "Hey, ugly," she shouted at Vexstar. "You want to know what makes humans different? We don't abandon our friends." She pulled the pins from her remaining grenades and threw them at the support pillars holding up the chamber ceiling. The explosions shook the entire facility. "Lisa, no!" Jake shouted, but it was too late. The ceiling began to collapse. Chunks of rock and metal crashed down. The Shadow Guard scattered, trying to avoid the falling debris. Vexstar was thrown against a wall, but Lisa did not move. She stood in the center of the destruction, smiling at her friends. "Get out of here," she said. "Warn Earth. Tell them we tried." A massive beam fell from the ceiling. Lisa disappeared beneath it. Zarathul screamed in rage and grief. Her eyes blazed with silver fire, brighter than Jake had ever seen. She moved toward Vexstar with deadly purpose. "You wanted to see what humans taught me?" she said. "They taught me that some things are worth dying for." The battle that followed was beyond anything Jake had witnessed. Zara fought with the fury of a grieving friend and the power of someone who had found their true purpose. Vexstar was strong, but he was fighting for power. Zarathul was fighting for love. When it was over, Vexstar lay broken among the rubble. The surviving Shadow Guard fled in terror. Jake knelt beside the fallen beam where Lisa had made her stand. Amy was crying. Danny was staring in shock. "She saved us all," Zarathul said softly. "She gave her life for strangers. For an alien she barely knew. This is what you call friendship?" "This is what we call being human," Jake replied. Above them, the facility's communication array still stood. They had a chance to warn Earth, but the cost had been higher than any of them wanted to pay. Zarathul looked at the humans with new understanding. "I begin to see why my people fear you. You are not afraid to die for what you believe in." "Neither are you," Amy said quietly. "Not anymore." The alien queen nodded. "No, not anymore." Jake Martinez climbed the twisted metal stairs toward the facility's communication array. Each step sent pain through his bruised ribs, but he kept moving. Behind him, Amy Foster helped Danny Rodriguez, who was limping from a piece of falling debris. Zarathul moved silently beside them, her silver eyes dim with grief. The communication chamber was at the top of the facility. A glass dome that looked out over the red landscape of Kepler 442b. The equipment inside was old but functional. Jake had used similar arrays during the war on Mars. "Danny, can you get this thing working?" Jake asked. Danny sat down at the control panel, his hands shaking slightly. "Give me a few minutes. The power systems are damaged, but I think I can reroute them." Jake looked out through the dome at the sky above. Somewhere up there, 50 Sanguis warriors were waiting for orders. And beyond them, an invasion fleet was heading toward Earth. "Zarathul," he said quietly, "what happens now? Will your people listen to you?" The alien queen was staring at the spot where they had left Lisa's body. "I do not know. Vexstar was not the only one who believed in conquest. Many of my people think mercy is weakness. But you're still their queen," Amy said. I?" Zarathul asked. "I have been changed by contact with humans. Some will say I am no longer truly Sanguis." Danny's fingers flew over the controls. "Almost got it. Jake, what's our message going to be?" Jake thought about it. "How do you tell an entire planet that an alien invasion is coming? How do you explain that their only hope might be an alien queen who learned about friendship from humans?" "We tell them the truth," he decided. "All of it?" The communication array hummed to life. A holographic display showed the signal reaching through space toward Earth. It would take hours to arrive, but at least their people would have some warning. That was when the first Sanguis ships appeared in the sky above them. 3 black vessels descended through the clouds like falling stars. They were beautiful and terrible, with curved hulls that seemed to absorb light. Jake could see weapon ports opening along their sides. "The Shadow Guard ships," Zarathul said. "They have come to finish what Vexstar started." "How many warriors?" "On each ship?" Jake asked. 20, maybe more." Jake did quick math in his head. 3 ships, 60 aliens, against 3 injured humans and 1 alien queen who might or might not be able to fight her own people. "We need to get out of here," Amy said. "Where?" Danny asked. "They'll track us anywhere we go." Zarathul walked to the center of the chamber. "No, we make our stand here. If I am going to die, let it be while defending the people who taught me how to live." She raised her hands, and silver light began to flow from her fingers. The light grew brighter and brighter until it filled the entire dome. Jake had to shield his eyes. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Calling them," Zarathul replied. "All of them. The Shadow Guard, the fleet commanders, everyone. I am still there. Queen, they must answer when I summon them." The ships landed around the facility. Through the dome, Jake could see dozens of Sanguis warriors emerging. They moved with the fluid grace of their species, but Jake noticed something different about them. They looked uncertain. A new voice echoed through the communication system. It spoke in the musical Sanguis language, but there was anger in the tone. "Commander Zexhai," Zarathul said. "He was Vexstar's second. He demands to know why I protect humans instead of feeding on them." She replied in her own language, her voice carrying clearly through the facility's speakers. The conversation went on for several minutes, with other Sanguis voices joining in. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could hear the emotion. Fear, anger, confusion. "What are you telling them?" Amy asked. "The truth," Zarathul said, "about what we used to be, about what we could become again, about what you have taught me." More ships were arriving now. Jake counted at least 10, maybe more. The entire Sanguis force was gathering around the facility. "They want proof," Zarathul continued. "They say humans are just clever prey. They want to know why I think your species is different." Jake looked at his remaining team. Amy was bandaging Danny's leg with supplies from her medical kit. Danny was still working on the communication array, trying to boost the signal to Earth. Both of them were hurt, tired, and scared, but neither had given up. "Tell them about Lisa," Jake said. "Tell them how she died to save us." Zarathul spoke. Again in Sanguis, the alien voices outside grew quiet. "They do not understand," she said. "Sanguis do not sacrifice for non-family. They ask why she would die for strangers." "Because that's what friends do," Amy said simply. "Because some things are more important than living." "Like what?" Zarathul asked. Jake thought about all the people on Earth, his sister in Chicago, the kids in his neighborhood, people he had never met but had sworn to protect. Like making sure good people get to keep living. Like standing up to bullies. Like doing what's right even when it's hard. Zarathul translated, and the alien voices grew even quieter. Annie suddenly looked up from his controls. "Jake, we've got incoming. A lot of incoming." On the scanner display, dozens of new contacts were appearing. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. "The invasion fleet," Zarathul said with dread. "They have arrived early." But then Danny frowned at his readings. "Wait, these aren't Sanguis ships. The energy signatures are all wrong." Jake looked at the display more carefully. The new ships had the clean lines and bright hulls of Terran Defense Force vessels. Earth's military had arrived. "How?" Amy asked in amazement. "The signal," Danny said excitedly. "It must have reached a patrol fleet. They came to investigate." Through the dome, Jake could see the Sanguis warriors looking up at the sky in confusion. Their easy conquest had suddenly become a battle. Zarathul was speaking rapidly in her own language now. The alien voices were arguing, some angry, some frightened. "What's happening?" Jake asked. "They are divided," Zarathul explained. "Some want to fight the human fleet. Others want to retreat. Others are listening to what I have told them about human nature." A new voice joined the conversation. This one was older, speaking with authority that made the others quiet. "Fleet Commander Mordun," Zarathul said. "He leads the invasion force. He wants to know why I'm protecting humans instead of commanding the attack." She replied in a voice that carried the power of centuries of leadership. When she finished, the silence stretched for long minutes. "What did you tell him?" Jake asked. "I told him that humans taught me something we had forgotten. That strength comes from protecting others, not destroying them. That a species that creates art and music and stories, that sacrifices for strangers and fights for justice, is too valuable to destroy." The old voice spoke again, asking a question. "He wants to know if I truly believe humans can help us change." Zarathul translated. Jake stepped forward to the communication panel. "Tell him yes. Tell him we're willing to try if you are." Zarathul spoke Jake's words in Sanguis. Then she added something else, speaking for a long time in her musical language. When she finished, the alien voices began again. But this time they sounded different, less angry, more thoughtful. "The fleet commander has called for a gathering of all ship captains," Zarathul said. "They will vote on whether to attack or to listen to what I have learned." Above them, the human and Sanguis fleets faced each other in space. On the surface, dozens of alien warriors waited for orders. And in the communication dome, 3 humans and 1 alien queen held their breath. The vote took an hour. When it was finished, Commander Mordun's voice echoed through the facility one last time. Zarathul smiled. And for the first time since Jake had met her, she looked truly happy. "The attack is canceled," she said. "They want to meet these humans who fight like family and die for strangers. They want to learn about your friendship." 6 months later, Jake Martinez stood on the observation deck of the joint Human-Sanguis research station orbiting Earth. Through the window, he could see children from both species playing together in the zero-gravity recreation areas. Amy Foster, had become the chief medical officer for interspecies health research. Danny Rodriguez was leading a team that combined human and Sanguis technology. And Jake was Earth's first ambassador to the Sanguis Empire. They had kept a promise to Lisa Thompson. They had saved Earth, and they had made it better. Zarathal joined. Him at the window. Do you think she would be proud of what we built? She asked. Jake watched a human child teaching a young Sanguis how to play catch. Yeah, I think she would. The galaxy was changing, one friendship at a time.